Yes, welcome everyone here. Smash Sports Show right here on Smash FM here on a lockdown Friday here in Melbourne. And of course, let's go out to our friends over in Queensland and speak to one of my favourite softball players in the Queensland team as well. She also represents Australia as well in the sport of softball. And of course, she's from the Redland Softball Association. And of course, her name's Tamieka Whitefield. She joins us right now. Thanks, Tamieka, for joining us.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Well, very different year for everyone, but obviously up there in Queensland there's a lot better than this down here at the moment. But I guess early in the year, of course, in the summer softball, how did you go in the summer just gone, which seems to be ages away?
Yeah, it was good. We went through nationals and had we were preparing for the Olympics really. So like right now should have been at the Olympics, which is crazy to think that that's where we should have been. But yeah, it's definitely been a bit of a change that's happened throughout the year and not what we expected at all.
Let's start off the summer softball first. You mentioned about nationals, which happened over in Perth, over in the west. How did the team go over in WA?
Yeah, so we ended up finishing third. So we lost our semi against SA, and so that set us in third place. We had a good week. It was obviously a tough week, and some good softball. There's always international pitchers that come over and play for the other states. So it's always a really good competition. And yeah, unfortunately, we couldn't pull it together at the end. So we finished in third. And then that took us to selections for the APC and Asia Pacific Cup.
Now, you mentioned about finishing third. I know Queenslanders don't like finishing any better than third. As I know, especially covering the 16s down here that Queensland won absolutely everything from everything down here in Victoria. But I guess you did run into, you mentioned SA, but obviously you end up being the defending champs New South Wales, of course. How did you go against the eventual champions?
We took a couple of losses to them during the week. We did get a win against them a bit later in the week. I think by the third round, we took a win, but they were actually the ones that knocked us out to go straight into the final. So they've always been pretty tough and hold a lot of the Aussie girls in that team. So they're always fierce competitors for the week of nationals.
How weird was it for you to come up against your Australian teammates, knowing that, prior to the pandemic, which was this year was supposed to be an Olympic year, end up had to play with them. How strange was that?
Yeah, I think it's, I guess you kind of do it all the time. So like when I play for Redlands, I'm obviously playing against some of the girls I play with for state and stuff like that. So I guess it's great when you're in a team with them and it's all good and fun. But I think that it takes it to an extra rivalry when you get to play against them. Like some of my best mates are in that New South team. And we always, it's always a bit of a rival when you get to put on like the maroon and play New South Wales. So it's always good fun, but it's always very competitive.
No, I know personally living in Queensland myself, there's always a rivalry, like a state of origin style rivalry between Queensland and New South Wales. And I've experienced what it's like being up in there in Queensland, about the hatred between Queensland and New South Wales. Is it like that on the field?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. All through juniors and now in the seniors too. I just think that there's always that team that you just really want to beat, and there's just a bit of an extra, especially between the Queensland and New South Wales. You always want to win, but just when you're playing those games, it always just means that little bit more.
Now, you mentioned that right now you're meant to be over there in Tokyo during the Olympic Games. I guess for you, I know this is going to sound a really silly question to ask, but is this almost sort of like a blessing in disguise in regards to now you've got an extra year to prepare for the Olympics this time next year?
Yeah, I definitely think for me, I'm quite young in the squad, so an extra 12 months because we hadn't picked the final team, so it was 20 and we still had to cut it to 15. So an extra 12 months, yeah, it definitely can't hurt me. An extra year of experience, I guess, and some more training and to fix some areas that I've been working on. It definitely has given me some more time to work through that.
What does it mean to you to represent Australia at the Olympic Games? What did that mean to you? And when you got the news that you were, how special was that for you and what did it mean?
Yeah, so it's always super special putting on a different jersey, whether it's your club or Redlands, and Queensland is always super special. But putting on that Australian jersey is just next level, and it's every tournament that we go to, getting to wear Australia across our chest is, for me, it's just amazing. My brother represented Australia, and both of my brothers have, so it's an unreal feeling, and the opportunity to hopefully do it at the Olympics would just be unbelievable.
What are you looking forward to once you're in Tokyo?
I think obviously the competition, it's 6 of the best countries that are super strong, so I think the competition is going to be amazing. But I have heard that in the Olympic Village that there is a whole lot of food. The dining hall apparently is just you've never seen that much food before, is what I've heard from people that have been. So I think that'd be really cool to check out.
And obviously all of it's free, so
Can't complain.
That's right. Now let's talk a bit about, I guess, how has the preparations been? Now you got an extra year to prepare. And obviously, the restrictions are a lot better than this through most of the country.
Yeah, so at the start, we were all pretty on lockdown as well. So I actually came back from New Zealand. So I did 2 weeks in isolation at home. So that was before the Olympics had got postponed. So I was training like I would, but just at home for a couple of weeks. And then I actually took a break. So I did, I probably had about a month and a bit off total skills, and just worked on strength and just different other, the mental side probably more so. And just watched a lot of footage during that time. And then now that we're finally back to being able to train as a small group and back into skills and back playing club at the moment. So I've finally been back to slowly getting into throwing and fielding and hitting all over again.
Now, mention that most of the Australian team is in New South Wales, but I'm assuming there's going to be a fair few Queenslanders in the Australian team, other than yourself. Tell us a couple of the Queenslanders in that Australian team.
Yeah, so we've got Kelsey Forkin, Justine Smethurst, Janice Blackman, and I think at the moment there's probably the 3. Yeah, and we have a couple of New South girls that live in Queensland that train with us.
You mentioned about that. Have you tried to convert them into Queenslanders officially?
No, I don't think those 2 will be changing anytime soon.
Oh, we tried. Now you mentioned about going back to club softball. Obviously, all the sports that are up in Queensland at the moment. How has club softball been so far?
Yeah, it's been good. We're about 3 weeks back into the season. It's been great to get back on the field. I know that a lot of other states and even associations haven't been back playing yet. So it's really good to be able to play some softball again.
You might as well tell us which softball club that is within the Redlands Softball Association.
Yeah, so I play for Scorpions, and yeah, that's at the Redlands Association.
And how's the Mighty Scorpions going?
Yeah, good. We've won a couple of games so far this season. So just looking to keep that going until the end of the season.
And have you come up against any of your Queensland teammates yet?
Yeah, so Mariners, who actually Janice Blackman, part of the Aussie squad, she plays for. So we played them the first game of the season and took the first win, which was great. But I'm sure they'll be back for some more in a couple of weeks.
Well, at least you got the first bragging rights first. Until you verse them again.
Yeah.
Now, we spoke before we came on for this interview that you're also an assistant coach for the upcoming Nationals in 2021, if it goes ahead over in Perth for the 18s. What convinced you to do an assistant coaching role?
I've always kind of helped out. I've coached a few Redlands teams for state titles, and I've always helped out at the under 16s and under 18s Queensland trainings, leading into my preparation for the Gilly Shield and their preparation for their nationals. So I've always been there to help out and give some knowledge and share some experiences with them. But yeah, this year I thought I'd throw my hand up and try and encourage them a little bit more and just give them some more knowledge and help them out. And yeah, so I got a role, which is super exciting.
And I guess with your playing experience, and especially at the highest level, as we mentioned, representing the country in the Olympic Games coming up, obviously representing your state as well. How important is that for you to be an assistant coach while still playing, especially to the younger girls in the team?
Yeah, I think it makes it super relatable that they know that I'm doing the training as well. And even for them to, some of them being 18s could potentially be in the heat squad. So even getting to play alongside them for club and stuff like that, just trying to show them that this is what it can look like and this week can be. I guess I'm not actually too much older than that age group as it is. So yeah, I guess in a couple of years they could be in the same sort of situation that I'm in.
Now, I got the chance to interview and obviously got a chance to see them in action in under 16s down here in Victoria. And obviously win that championship in a whitewash over New South Wales. Tell us, and obviously I think 3 or 4 of them are from Redlands as well, softball. Tell us a couple of those players that you see regularly at Redlands, and that's in that Queensland team, maybe a couple of players we should watch out for.
Yeah, there's definitely, there's a whole group in that Queensland team that obviously they won. So that's just a great experience to take further on. I'm not too sure about how many will still be in 16s and some that will be going into 18s, but they were definitely a fight. Like they were awesome on that in Melbourne. So yeah, I think they're definitely an age group to look out for.
Now let's talk a bit about your softball journey and where did it all start and why did you choose it?
Yeah, so I'm very lucky that and fortunate that my whole family plays softball. So I kind of got bred into the sport. Didn't really choose it. I didn't actually start playing until I was about 9 years old. So I was always down at the ballpark, but never wanted to quite play until I was about 9. And that's where I started at Redlands with Scorpions. So that was super exciting. Still there today. And yeah, it was just super family orientated. My nan umpires, my mom and dad play, and my brothers as well.
Now, what position do you play on the field? And if you had a preferred position where you love to convince your state or your national coach to put you, where will that be?
At the moment, I'm a bit of a utility, so I play all outfield positions and both middle infield. So a bit of a variety. Where would I love to play? Probably anywhere on the middle infield, so shortstop or second base.
And what would be some softball highlights throughout your journey so far?
I definitely think Probably my junior worlds and my first open worlds championships, massive highlights, getting to go away and represent Australia. But we've been fortunate enough to play in the professional league in America for the last 3 years. So just living and breeding softball for 3 months of the year has been so exciting, and something that you don't get to do in Australia. So they're definitely probably huge highlights of mine.
Now, you mentioned about that. Obviously, America is famous for its baseball/softball over there. And you mentioned about your time over there. You might as well tell us the team that you played over there, and do you still stay in contact with any of those players on that team?
Yeah, so we actually send our Aussie squad over. So it's mostly Aussies. So it's Aussie Peppers. That's who we last year, and so that was just our Australian squad based in the States.
I guess, how was the experience like playing with a country that just lives and breathes the sport?
Yeah, it was awesome. It's great to see so many fans. You probably don't get that here, whereas we'd finish a game and there'd be a whole queue that we'd have to sign balls for, and all the clinics that we do, there'd be hundreds of girls that would turn up to that. So that was awesome. And just seeing that there was 4 American teams, or there was a couple of countries as well that we played against, and they live and breed it. So it was good to live a professional lifestyle for a couple of months of the year.
Now, I'm assuming, I know for a fact that Americans love Aussies, and of course, you brought the Australian team over there. Now, I'm assuming that you didn't, like when you go everywhere in America, especially when you're playing, that, everyone wanted to have a photo, get autographs. You almost feel like a bit of a rock star.
Yeah, it's definitely a different lifestyle that we're not used to over here. So yeah, they definitely love our accents. So they definitely like to get us talking a little bit. But yeah, it's very exciting.
Now, let's talk a bit about, I guess, what does the sport mean to you now, the sport of softball, and especially to represent Queensland and Redlands?
Yeah, so the sport of softball for me, it's very family orientated for me. Like I have, obviously, as I said, my whole family play, but just the people that I've met through softball are my family now too. So I think that it's definitely a part of who I am and the person that I've become from playing this sport. And especially from growing up at Redlands, like I take a lot of pride in wearing my Redlands uniform and playing down there. It's definitely my favourite season, and probably my favourite tournament is the state titles, where I get to represent Redlands. So yeah, I can't speak of Redlands highly enough. That's definitely where I've come from, and a place that I will probably play forever. And same with Queensland. It's always an honour putting on a Queensland jersey, and they're the kind of steps that you've got to make to be able to make the Australian team and go to the Olympics. So the stepping stones to get there, and I really appreciate where I've come from.
Now, you mentioned about state championships. Obviously, we have our version down here as well, but obviously up there, obviously there's always rivalries between associations within Queensland, I've noticed as well. Who's the team that you'll love to beat when you represent Redlands?
That would definitely be Brisbane. So it's probably like that the New South Queensland rivalry at state championships, especially for the women. It's always a Brisbane Redlands rivalry.
And how have you fared against them in the last couple of years?
We won state champs last year.
Yes.
So good so far, at least the last couple of years. But it's only a couple of months away now. So I'm sure everyone's very excited to knock us off our blocks this year.
Well, I'm sure you can do it again and beat Brisbane as well in their own game. The ultimate goal is obviously to represent Australian Olympic Games. I guess, do you have any other short or long-term goals in the sport?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to continue coaching and giving back to the sport that's given me so much. So just any way that I can. I'm coaching an under-14s Redlands team at the moment. So we'll head to state championships in a couple of months and all of that sort of stuff. Like, I do really enjoy the coaching side of it. But yeah, I just think at the moment the next tournament for us is state champs. So just getting to put on that Redlands uniform again and go from there and see where the rest of the year takes me.
What will be your advice to our listeners either here in Melbourne once we get our lockdown or up in Queensland that should get involved in softball, especially there at Redlands?
Yeah, it's a great community. Everyone plays from juniors to seniors, men and women all day for us on a Sunday at Redlands. So you don't have to travel. It's all at Redlands. It's a great game. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So come down and enjoy it.
Now let's finish off with a couple of lighthearted questions now. Firstly, any embarrassing moments that any of your teammates, either Redlands, Queensland, or the Australian team have done?
Probably embarrassing moment would probably be one of my teams. We have this tradition. It was like a rookie tradition, but we all kind of got on with it anyways. And we ran around the buses on the way to the fields. And the last time we did it, we got pulled over by the cops. And so that kind of canned the tradition. Yeah, so we got in a bit of trouble, but they ended up coming out the next day and watching us play. So, but yeah, that was probably one of the embarrassing parts.
Oh, I've never heard of that before. The team gets pulled up by the police and then they end up coming to your game the following day.
Yeah, they weren't so impressed with us that day, but the next day they were great. They came and supported us.
You can tell me what actually happened that you got pulled up for afterwards. Now, who's the comedian in your Redlands, your Queensland, or the Australian team?
Probably in my Redlands team, I'm gonna have to say Stacey Webber. We always have a good banter, and we always play normally on the same side of the field. So we love to have a little joke around and a sing along on the way to the game.
Now, who is the best singer and dancer in either of those teams?
Well, I would love to say that I'm quite a great singer. I'm sure no one on the bus would agree. But I do, if they've got a good tune on, I will 100% belt it out, and probably a little bit tone deaf, but at least I think I sound great.
Well, we might test that theory after the interview. Now, of course, well, you mentioned belting songs out just a moment ago. Is there a particular song that you love to belt out?
There is one that we do enjoy, but it's probably not appropriate. But they will definitely know what I'm talking about.
Okay, fair enough. Now, do you have a pre-game superstition or ritual?
Yeah, so every tournament you'll see me with zinc. So just like the clear zinc that I wear just across my nose, cheeks. And I'll wear that if we have an 8 p.m. game at night. I will wear it. There does not need to be a sun, but I will have the zinc on. Yeah, so any tournament, I will always have my zinc on. That's my superstition. Need it on. Has to be there.
Now, two final ones before we let you go, which is we mentioned about embarrassing. Is there any funny moments that your teammates have done other than being put up by the cops?
Oh, I just think that every tour that we go on, I'm sure that there is so many things that happen and that don't mean to happen. But yeah, off the top of my head, I can't remember one in particular, but there's always someone does something silly. You don't even mean to, but it definitely happens.
Now, we'll finish off with this one last one, and of course, which is a bit of a serious question. Now, you mentioned that you're coaching the Redlands 14s girls team in the state. Is there any of the girls there we should watch out for in future years to come in your Redlands team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have a really young group of girls that their parents have played and been really good players. So I just think that probably Willow and Michaela, and there's just so many future talented girls that will be huge for the game of softball.
And of course, I have to finish off with this one last one, which is, now you mentioned that your whole family is a softball family and plays the sport. Who is the better softball player between you and your siblings?
I'm gonna say that my little brother is the best. Especially, I would say that he's gonna be the best. I don't know how my older brother, he just debuted at the MLB in the States in the last week. So he's not too bad, but he's gone to baseball now. So we'll let my little brother take the title.
Trixie, you do have a very, very good softball family. Well, Tamieka, thank you so much for joining us. We've been hoping we were going to get you on the show, and we finally got you on the show through your association, and we can't wait to hopefully get to meet you in person once everything all dies down here in Melbourne and this virus just disappears, and hopefully everything goes well, and hopefully get to either meet you other assistant coaching in WA for Queensland or playing for Queensland in Canberra.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I hope you guys stay safe down there.
No worries. And that's Tamieka Whitefield there from, of course, the Redlands Softball Association. As I mentioned before, and we've mentioned quite a few times on this interview, she also represents Queensland Heat and the Australian team, of course, and we'll be definitely supporting her and the Australian team at the Olympic Games in 2021. Of course, if you're in Brisbane or in Queensland at all and you want to get down to play softball, make sure, highly recommend to get down to Redlands and get involved down there. There's more on the Smash Sports Show right after this. Don't go away. Here on the Friday Lockdown Edition.